Good morning or good afternoon. Today we'll be watching a Quizzette on Quizzette 706. Please make sure you write your last name, comma, first name, today's date, and your class color. Number 1 is going to ask you either a multiplication or a division question, but it's also going to ask you a difference or a sum. And I think that is excellent because the standard actually says that you're going to apply the 4 operations of math to find an answer. So let's just get into it. Monday number 1. What number could be added to the quotient of negative 48 divided by negative 8 so that the sum is equal to negative 7? Now, some of you are very good at mental math. You can probably reason through this very quickly, but I would like for you to set up an equation because though I'm not teaching you equations right now, it is a unit that we are going to be in hopefully in November or December. So please make sure that you're not just writing that number that you figured out like a puzzle. So the first part is the quotient of negative 48 divided by negative 8. And I'm going to put parentheses around that instead of the parentheses around the negative 48 and the negative 8. And then it says what number could be added to the quotient to get you negative 17. So the whole goal is to get you equals negative 17. So in algebra, the overarching question in algebra is what is the mystery number? Like, what is this mystery number I'm trying to solve for? It might not always phrase it in a word problem, but it definitely is at the root of every question in algebra. You can always bring it down to what's this mystery number that I'm trying to find or that I'm trying to solve for. So in this case, our mystery number, we can use a variable to represent it, which could be just x, y, z, b, f, k. It doesn't matter. So I'm just going to use x because most kids like to use the letter x. So x is that mystery number that needs to get added to the quotient negative 48 divided by negative 8 to get you negative 17. So order of operations states that we have to undo or solve for multiplication and division from left to right. So negative 48 divided by negative 8, a negative divided by a negative is a positive. So that's positive 6 or just 6 plus this mystery number we're trying to find equals negative 17. So I want to isolate my variable. So I'm going to circle my variable, which is x. And I'm going to look at everything outside of it or to the left of it that is keeping it from being completely by itself on one side of the equation, which is positive 6. And think to yourself, what is the opposite of positive 6? And that's negative 6 or minus 6. And in order to keep this equation balanced, if I do something on one side of the equation, I, by default, have to apply it to the other side of the equation to keep this equal. So if I subtracted 6 on the left, I have to subtract by 6 on the right of the equation symbol or the equal sign, which is right here, in case you didn't see it. Now, positive 6 and negative 6, that's a 0 pair that cancels. All I'm left with is this x, which is what I wanted, our mystery number, negative 17 minus 6. They're both negatives, so it's going to stay negatives. Remember, you're adding these. I know it doesn't seem like you're adding them, but even if you were subtracting them, like let's say you were to have just a little thought bubble over here, okay? Let's say you have negative 17 minus 6. Remember, you have to change subtraction to the addition of the opposite. I'm sorry for that timer. That was my timer for my coffee, so yay. Let me pause real quick. All right, thank you for ignoring the distraction that is your teacher. So, okay, back to this. So if I were to change negative 17 minus 6 into the addition of the opposite, which is the equivalent, which is negative 17 plus negative 6, you have to remember that the addition and subtraction rules, the addition rules are different from the multiplication and the division rules. So here, you're not multiplying negative 17 and negative 6. You're adding negative 6 and negative 17. If you were multiplying those two integers, then it would be a positive integer. But in this case, you're adding them. So it's like you're grouping the same type of number together. So you're grouping negative 17 and negative 6. So you add them and keep their sign. So negative 17 plus negative 6 is going to be negative 23. So our mystery number, or the number that it's asking you, that can be added to the quotient of negative 48 divided by negative 8 so that the sum is equal to negative 17 is negative 23. And this is how you check it. So on the side, I'm going to try to write it in purple. If you can fit it, please do. So we're going to check. So if I divide negative 48 and negative 8, I have positive 6. Okay, now subtract 23 from it and see with the question mark if it equals negative 17. So on this side, I'm just going to write negative 17. And let's see, positive 6 minus 23, make that, or change that into the addition of the opposite, which would be positive 6 plus negative 23. Those are different signs. So you're going to subtract 6 from 23, and that's going to get you 17, and keep the sign of the bigger number. So keep the question mark above the equal sign. Is negative 17 equal to negative 17? Yes, it is. So that's when you'd put a check on top of your equal sign. And this is just called checking your equation or checking for the mystery number. So that's when you plug in that mystery number for the variable and verify that the number you get on the left side is the same number that you have on the right side. And you always put a question mark on top because we're questioning it. And when we find that the statement is indeed true, then we put a check mark on top of the equal sign. This is something that I did even up until my last math class in college. They always have you verify your answer, and this is the proper way to check. If it's dealing with numbers, this is how you would check it. So again, the mystery number is negative 23, or x is equal to negative 23. Number 2 is going to change every single day because they're screenshots of your quiz. I felt that your quiz had a lot of great questions, and I wanted to be able to figure them out as a class, as groups, and just to make sure that we didn't get tricked on our quiz when we see it on Friday. So I wanted to front load everything on this Quizzette. Number 2, over 8 days, the price of a share of XYZ company stock fell $72. So the share fell $72. So I can already tell you that's going to be negative 72. So I'm just going to jot it down, negative 72. On the 9th day, the price rose $4. So positive 4. But on the 10th day, it fell, or you can do plus negative 12. It's the same thing as minus 12. On the 10th day, it fell $12. Write and find the value of an expression for the average change in the price of stock for these 10 days. Okay, so the expression we're going to write is negative 72 plus 4 plus negative 2, negative 12. When they're asking us about average, that's when you divide the sum of all of the days, and then you look at the total amount of the quantity that they want you to find the average of. And in this case, they want us to find the average of 10 days. Typically, if they're asking you about the average of something, they give you a sequence of numbers. You count the sequence of numbers, and if there's like 5 numbers in that sequence, you would put 5 underneath the sum of all those, of the sequence of numbers. Sorry, I hope I'm not losing you. But in this case, it's giving you the average amount. It's giving you the quantity that it wants you to find the average of. So that's why we wrote 10 underneath the expression. So this is the expression. So if I were grading this on Friday, or grading this on a quiz, I would first give you a check for writing the expression. And this is the expression. The difference between an expression and an equation is an expression doesn't have an equal sign and an equation does have an equal sign. So in this case, we don't need to write an equal sign. We know that we're going to find the average by default. So this is just the expression. So now we have to solve it to find the average change in the price of stock. So negative 72 plus 4 is negative 68. So we have negative 68 plus negative 12. We have a negative and a negative. Remember, keep their add them and keep their sign. And in this case, it would be negative 80. So we have negative 80 divided by 10. Negative 80 divided by 10 is negative 8. So the average, and we can write that, the average change in the price of stock for 10 days is a loss, or let me see, I guess a drop, because we're talking about stocks. So a loss would make sense as well. But you can also say a drop in $8. So something I noticed, or something you should have noticed, is that on number 1 and number 2, they're having us apply properties of subtraction and addition of integers, and also multiplication and division. And that is the ultimate goal. That is the 7th grade standard. And if you meet that standard, you're already good. Number 3, find the value of the expression. 21 divided by -7 plus -5 times -9. Now, order of operations says that we have to clear out the parentheses and the exponents, but we don't have exponents right now. And the parentheses represent multiplication or division, and that's the next step, and we have to do them from left to right. So 21, so right here, 21 divided by -7 is -3, plus -5 times -9 is positive 45. And these are, let me see, addition and subtraction, so they're different signs, so you have to subtract them. So that's 42. Keep the sign of the bigger number, and it's positive. So positive 42. All right, have a great week. Good luck on this Quizzette. If you have any questions, make sure you raise your hand, and maybe I'll give you guys some group time.